The storage unit was burning. Smoke crawled along the ceiling like something alive, stinging my eyes, turning every breath into glass. The metal door rattled as fists slammed against it from the outside. Someone shouted my name. Wrong. Desperate. Too late. I clutched the briefcase to my chest, knuckles white, the heat blistering my skin through denim and fear. The phone in my pocket buzzed once. A message lit the screen through the smoke. You should have stayed gone. The lock on the unit shrieked. Hinges screamed. And in that moment, with fire chewing through my past and footsteps rushing toward me, I understood the truth too clearly to escape it. Family doesn't just betray you, sometimes it hunts you. 6 months earlier, my life had looked clean and finished, like a photo framed for display. A husband, 2 kids, a house with a porch swing. A job I helped build from nothing. I was Emily Carter then, married to Ryan Carter, project manager, dependable smile, the kind of man people trusted within seconds of meeting him. My younger sister, Chloe, worked at the same architecture firm. She was magnetic, confident. Everyone loved her. I told myself that was normal. Sisters were supposed to admire each other. The email arrived on a Thursday at 4:17 p.m. Subject, you deserve to know. One photo, Ryan and Chloe. Lips pressed together in the parking lot behind our office. My car visible in the background. My stomach didn't drop. It fractured. I stared until the screen blurred, then walked out without telling anyone where I was going. Ryan didn't deny it. He sighed like I'd interrupted him, said I was distant, said Chloe understood him. By Monday, my job was restructured. Chloe took my role. By Friday, Ryan filed for divorce. By the end of the month, he had the house, the kids, and a judge convinced I was unstable. The last text he sent still burned in my memory. You'll die, poor and alone. He was wrong about one thing. I didn't die, I disappeared. When the money ran out, I slept in my car. When the car broke down, I moved into a 5x10 storage unit off the highway. Cold soup, borrowed Wi-Fi. Nights filled with rain and regret. That's where I found the briefcase. Old leather, cracked handle, my full name on the tag. Inside, stacks of cash and a letter from my uncle, dead for years. This is only travel money, it said. The truth is waiting. I stared at the coordinates until dawn, heart pounding, knowing one thing for certain. Whatever waited for me out there had already started something I couldn't stop. And someone, somewhere, knew I'd found it. The road out of Oregon felt like an escape route drawn by someone who knew I'd need it. I left before sunrise, the briefcase wedged under the passenger seat, $49,000 wrapped in plastic like a secret that might dissolve if it touched air. Every mile marker peeled something off me. My marriage, my job, the woman who still believed explanations mattered. Gas station coffee burned my throat. Cheap motels blurred together. I slept with my shoes on and the briefcase within arm's reach. By the second day, I noticed the first thing that didn't feel random. A gray pickup. It was behind me at a rest stop outside Spokane. Same truck again 2 hours later, parked crooked at a gas station while I filled up. I told myself I was paranoid. Trauma does that. Makes patterns out of nothing. Still, I didn't linger. The letter from my uncle stayed folded in my jacket pocket. I'd memorized the coordinates by heart. Montana, Timberwolf Trail, a name that felt less like a place and more like a warning. On the third day, my phone lost signal just as the landscape changed. Mountains rising like broken teeth. Pines packed so tight the sky disappeared between them. The GPS blinked once, then went dark. No service, I laughed under my breath. Of course. The dirt road appeared exactly where the letter promised. Narrow, half swallowed by trees, a rusted sign swinging on one bolt. Private property. Beyond it, a red gate hung open, waiting. The key, taped beneath the briefcase handle, fit like it had been cut that morning. The forest swallowed sound. No birds, no wind, just the crunch of my boots and my own breathing, too loud, too fast. Then I saw it. A boulder shaped like a bear's head, jaws lifted toward the sky. Behind it, a cabin, solid, modern, solar panels crusted with snow. Not abandoned, preserved. The door wasn't locked. Inside, the air smelled of oil and paper. My flashlight beam hit a wall covered in photographs, documents, red string tying everything together. At the center, my father, younger than I remembered, shaking hands with another man outside a sawmill. The name beneath the photo made my knees weaken. Caldwell, Ryan's family. My father had died in a workplace accident the same year that company exploded into power. The red string led to reports. Maintenance logs altered, insurance policies quietly expanded, safety systems tampered with hours before the accident. I wasn't shaking from cold anymore. Then I saw the second wall, photos of my sister, not recent, years old, meetings, handshakes, smiles that weren't hers. A recorder sat on the desk beneath them. One label, written in my uncle's slanted hand. "She trusts you." I pressed play. Chloe's voice filled the cabin, calm and practiced. "She won't suspect a thing." A man laughed softly. Older, confident. "Good. Once she's out, everything passes through the kids." My stomach turned to ice. This wasn't an affair. It was a design. I didn't hear the sound outside at first. The crunch of tires on gravel, slow and deliberate. Then the cabin lights flickered. And somewhere beyond the trees, an engine shut off. I killed the flashlight and didn't breathe. The generator's low hum filled the cabin, steady, indifferent. Outside, footsteps crunched through snow, slow, unhurried. Whoever it was knew exactly where they were going. I slipped the recorder into my pocket, grabbed the folder with my father's name, and backed into the shadow beside the door. The handle turned. Nothing happened. A pause, then a knock. Soft, polite. "Emily," a man's voice called, calm as a doctor delivering bad news. "You don't need to hide." My blood went cold. He knew my name. The door opened anyway. A tall man stepped inside, gray hair under a wool cap, eyes sharp and amused. The gray pickup flashed in my mind. He glanced at the walls, the photos, the red string, and smiled like he was admiring a completed puzzle. "So, Raymond finally let you in," he said. "Took longer than I expected." "Who are you?" My voice sounded smaller than I wanted. He ignored the question. "You look like your father." He had that same expression when he realized he'd already lost. I bolted, past him, through the door, lungs burning as I tore down the path toward the car. Snow grabbed at my boots. Behind me, he didn't shout. He didn't run. A gunshot cracked the air, sharp and final, punching into the tree beside my head. I dove into the driver's seat, hands slick with panic, and slammed the door just as another shot shattered the rear window. The engine roared to life. Gravel sprayed as I fishtailed down the trail, branches whipping the sides, glass raining onto the seats. I didn't stop until the road hit pavement. An hour later, parked beneath flickering fluorescent lights at a nowhere town gas station, my hands were still shaking. I checked my phone. No signal. But there was one new message. Time-stamped 5 minutes earlier. "You weren't supposed to listen to the tapes." I drove all night after that, chasing signal, chasing air, chasing the thin hope that someone out there wasn't already bought. When my phone finally buzzed alive near the Idaho border, it rang immediately. "Unknown number." I answered. "You found Raymond's cabin," a woman said. Her voice was clipped, professional. "If you want to stay alive, you need to do exactly what I say." "Who is this?" "Someone who's been waiting 30 years for that evidence," she replied. "And someone your sister is about to kill to keep buried." The line went dead. Across the highway, headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. Gray pickup, closing fast. And this time, there was nowhere left to run. The gray pickup rode my bumper like it owned the road. Headlights flared in my mirrors. Too close, washing the inside of the car in white. I pushed past the speed limit, tires whining as the road curved through dark forest. No cell service again. Of course. My hands locked on the wheel, jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. A turn appeared out of nowhere, sharp, unlit. I took it without thinking. The pickup followed. The road narrowed into a service lane, potholes hammering the suspension. I spotted a rest area ahead, one of those half-forgotten pullouts with a single bathroom and a soda machine that never worked. I killed my headlights 10 yards before it and rolled in silent, heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. I grabbed the briefcase and ran. The restroom door was unlocked. I shoved inside, locked it, crouched behind the cracked tile wall. My lungs burned. Outside, the pickup rolled in slow. Door opened, boots on gravel, unhurried. He knocked once. "Emily," the man called again, patient. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." I pressed my hand over my mouth. Another knock, louder. Then his phone rang. I heard his voice change. Respectful now, subordinate. "Yes, she has it. No, I won't rush." Silence, footsteps retreating. I waited 5 minutes. 10. When I finally peeked out, the pickup was gone. I didn't stop shaking until sunrise. I drove until I found a motel with cameras and people and noise. Paid cash, didn't sleep. I replayed the recording again and again. Chloe's voice looping in my head like poison. She trusts me completely. By noon, my phone rang. Same unknown number. "My name is Mara Ellison," the woman said. "Federal investigator, off the books. The people after you don't officially exist, and neither do I, yet." "You said my sister. She's been in this longer than you think," Mara cut in. "Your husband was leverage. Your job was access. Your kids were insurance." My vision blurred. "Why not just kill me?" A pause. "Because your uncle made you inconvenient." She told me to come to Seattle, to bring everything. No police, no friends, no warnings. That night, I dreamed of fire. On the drive west, I checked my email at a diner. One new message. No sender, no subject, just a photo. Liam and Sophie sitting on a couch I didn't recognize. Sophie clutched her stuffed bunny. Liam stared straight at the camera, jaw tight. Beneath it, one line, "Turn around." My phone buzzed immediately after, Ryan's name lighting the screen for the first time in months. I answered, already knowing this was the moment everything tipped. "Emily," he said softly, "you're scaring the kids." In the background, I heard Sophie cry, and I realized the truth too late. Seattle wasn't a rescue, it was a trap. I didn't turn around. I pulled into traffic so hard the tires screamed. Diner patrons staring as I tore back onto the highway. Ryan's voice stayed in my ear, calm, controlled, the same tone he used with clients when he already had the upper hand. "They miss you," he said. "Chloe's been holding things together, but it's been hard on them." "Put them on," I snapped. A pause, too long. "Sophie's sleeping," he said. "Liam doesn't want to talk right now." I laughed, sharp, broken. "You're lying." Another pause. Then his voice dropped, stripped of warmth. "You've been busy, Em, driving around with things that don't belong to you." I hung up. 10 minutes later, A black SUV slid into my rearview mirror. No plates. Tinted windows. It didn't rush me. Just stayed there, steady as a shadow. When I changed lanes, it followed. When I slowed, it slowed. I took the next exit, industrial, empty. The SUV followed. So I did the only thing left. I drove straight to the Seattle FBI field office. I didn't park. I ran inside barefoot, briefcase in one hand, screaming my name at the front desk like it was a weapon. Agents moved fast once I said kidnapping. Once I said evidence. Once I dropped the recorder on the counter and Chloe's voice spilled into the lobby. Everything blurred after that. A woman with steel-gray eyes introduced herself as Agent Mara Ellison. Same voice, same calm. She took me into a windowless room, locked the door, and finally let herself breathe. "You did the right thing," she said. "But you need to understand, this isn't just about your family. Caldwell money runs deep, judges, police, politicians. My kids," I said, "where are they?" "We're working on it." That wasn't an answer. 3 hours later, alarms screamed through the building. Agents rushed past the glass walls, shouting codes I didn't understand. Mara yanked open the door. "They made their move," she said. "Now." "What move?" She didn't answer. She grabbed my arm and dragged me through a back stairwell, down into the garage. Black sedans waited, engines running. As we peeled out into traffic, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Mara swore. "Don't answer it." I did anyway. This time, it was Chloe. Her voice was shaking. Real. "Emily, I never wanted it to go this far." "Where are my children?" I whispered. "They're safe," she said quickly. "But that depends on you." The line crackled. A man's voice cut in, older, amused. "You have something we want," he said. "Bring it to the storage unit on Route 9, the one you used to live in." My chest tightened. "I thought you burned it," I said. He laughed softly. "We rebuilt it." The call ended. Mara stared at me as the city lights streaked past. "They're pulling you back to the beginning," she said. Outside, traffic slowed. Ahead of us, an accident flared. Cars stopped, smoke rising. Too late, I saw the gray pickup blocking the next lane, and every exit closing at once. The convoy never made it out of downtown. The accident ahead wasn't an accident at all. 2 sedans boxed sideways, hoods smoking, hazard lights blinking like a warning too late to matter. Our driver swore and slammed the brakes. Before anyone could react, the gray pickup lurched forward, blocking us in from behind. Doors flew open. Men moved fast, not panicked, professional. Mara shoved me down between the seats as glass exploded from the rear window. A gunshot cracked so close my ears rang. Agents fired back, shouting, the garage-level echo turning everything into chaos. I felt the car jerk as we were rammed from the side. "Emily!" Mara yelled. "Run when I say—" The passenger door ripped open. Hands grabbed my arm. I kicked, screamed, felt a needle sting my neck. The world tilted. I came to in darkness, wrists zip-tied, head pounding like it was splitting open. The smell hit me first. Oil, rust, damp concrete. A familiar echo, storage units. Fluorescent lights flickered on. The door across from me rolled up with a metallic shriek, and there it was. Unit 32, B, my old one, rebuilt, cleaner, still a coffin. Ryan stepped into the light. He looked relieved, like he'd finally fixed a problem that had been bothering him too long. "You always did make things dramatic," he said gently. Behind him, Chloe hovered near the wall, arms wrapped around herself. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Where are my children?" I asked. Ryan gestured. A side door opened. Liam stood there, stiff, trying to look brave. Sophie clutched his jacket, eyes red. My heart broke so violently I thought I might die on the spot. "They're fine," Ryan said, "because I made sure of it." "You used them," I said, "just like everything else." He shrugged. "You were supposed to stay broken." That was the plan. A man stepped out of the shadows, the one from the cabin. Older, calm, predator eyes. "You have our property," he said, "the evidence, the rights, the money." "I gave it to the FBI," I lied. He smiled. "No, you didn't. You're smarter than that." Chloe finally spoke. "Emily, please, just give it to them. We can end this." I laughed. It surprised all of us. "You still don't get it," I said. "It already ended." The older man frowned. "What did you do?" I met Ryan's eyes. "I mailed copies, everywhere. If I don't check in every 12 hours, it all goes public." Silence. Then Ryan slapped me, hard. Blood filled my mouth. Sophie cried out. Liam surged forward, furious. And that's when the siren started. Distant at first, then multiplying, screaming closer by the second. Mara's voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "This is a federal operation. Step away from the hostages." The older man cursed. Ryan backed up slowly, realization dawning. "You planned this." I smiled through blood. "I learned from the best." Gunfire erupted. Smoke filled the unit. And in the chaos, Chloe grabbed my arm, not to stop me, to pull me free. Chloe dragged me sideways as bullets tore through the thin metal walls, sparks screaming where they hit. The world became noise and motion, sirens shouting, Sophie crying my name. Someone tackled Ryan, someone else went down hard. I didn't look back. We burst out a side door into freezing night air. "Go!" Chloe shouted, shoving me toward a row of parked cars. Her face was wet with tears, mascara streaked, eyes wild. "Get them out, now!" "Come with us," I yelled. She shook her head once. A decision, final and irreversible. I already chose. Agents flooded the lot, weapons raised. I grabbed Liam's hand, scooped Sophie up, and ran until my lungs burned and my legs went numb. An agent ushered us into a cruiser, slammed the door, and peeled away as the storage units disappeared behind us in flashing red and blue. Inside the car, Sophie clung to me like I might vanish if she let go. Liam stared out the window, jaw locked, too old to cry, too young to carry what he'd just seen. "Is it over?" he asked. I wanted to say yes. I didn't. At a safe house north of the city, agents moved us through hallways that smelled like bleach and coffee. Mara found me in a small kitchen an hour later, face pale, hair pulled back tight. "They've got Ryan," she said, "and Caldwell's fixer from Montana. Multiple warrants, federal, state, everything." "And Chloe?" Mara exhaled. "She turned state's evidence, gave us locations, accounts, names we didn't even know existed." My chest tightened. Relief and grief tangled until I couldn't tell them apart. "She asked for you," Mara added, "before we took her in." I shook my head. "I can't." Mara nodded. "You might have to." 3 days later, I sat across from Chloe in an interview room divided by glass. She looked smaller, not fragile, emptied, like someone who'd finally stopped running. "I didn't think it would hurt like this," she said quietly. "You planned it," I replied, "every step." "I was a kid when they found me," she said. "They told me I was special, that Dad died because he was weak, that you'd understand one day. You could have stopped." "I tried," she whispered. "By the time you married Ryan, it was already locked in." Silence pressed in. "They're going to take everything," she said. "The money, the company, the name." "They should," I said, her eyes filled. "Will you let me see them, the kids?" I stood. That's not my decision anymore. The trial came fast. Faster than anyone expected. Evidence stacked too high, too loud to bury. The recordings, the paper trail, the money. Ryan avoided my eyes in court. The fixer didn't. He smiled like he still believed in escape. The verdict erased that smile. As the gavel fell, I felt something uncoil inside me. Not victory, release. Outside the courthouse, snow began to fall, soft and quiet, covering the city in white. Liam slipped his hand into mine. "Mom," he said steady, "we're okay now." I squeezed his hand back, knowing one thing for certain. Whatever came next wouldn't be built on lies. And I was done running. Freedom didn't arrive with silence. It came with conditions. For weeks after the verdict, we lived under borrowed names in a rented house with cameras on every corner and men who never smiled parked across the street. Mara called it protective custody. Liam called it jail with better food. Sophie just asked when she could go back to school without lying about her last name. Ryan's trial triggered more than anyone expected. Accounts froze. Shell companies cracked open. People with power started panicking, and panicking people make mistakes. That's how the first brick came through the window. It shattered the living room glass at 2:14 a.m., alarms screaming as an envelope skidded across the floor. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. My father, my uncle, and a third man I didn't recognize, standing in front of the sawmill. On the back, 4 words were written in black ink. "You missed one." Mara didn't like that. "There was another partner," she said later, pacing the kitchen. "Someone Raymond never identified." "So Caldwell wasn't the top," I said. "No," she replied grimly. "He was middle management." The calls started after that. Numbers that disconnected when answered. Breathing. Once, laughter. Once, a child's voice that sounded almost like Sophie's but wasn't. Liam stopped sleeping. Sophie started carrying scissors in her pocket. Then Mara brought me a file she hadn't shown anyone else. Inside was a transfer document dated after my father's death. Mineral rights reassigned, quietly, illegally, to a private trust. The trustee's name made my stomach drop. Raymond Hartman, my uncle. "You said he left you everything," Mara said carefully. "He did," I replied. "That's what the will said. But this transfer happened years earlier," she said, "before he disappeared." The implication settled like poison. That night, alone in the dark, I replayed the words from his letter. Only when the lies are stripped away can you see the truth. What if Raymond hadn't just been protecting me? What if he'd been hiding something from me? My phone buzzed at 3:06 a.m. One new message. Unknown number. "You were never supposed to survive this far." Attached was an address, and a final line that stole the breath from my lungs. "If you want your children safe, come alone." I stared down the hallway at Liam and Sophie sleeping, unaware, peaceful for once. Then I grabbed my coat, because whatever my uncle had buried, it was still alive. The address led me back to Montana, not the cabin, somewhere deeper. I left before dawn without telling Mara. I hated myself for that, but fear has a way of making decisions feel clean. I drove straight through, coffee untouched, hands steady in a way they hadn't been since before everything fell apart. If this was a trap, it was one I'd already been living in my whole life. The road ended at an old mining facility carved into the mountainside, half collapsed, fenced off, forgotten by maps but not by memory. One light burned inside. I stepped through the gate. Inside, the air was damp and metallic. Footsteps echoed before I saw him. Raymond Hartman. Older than I remembered, thinner. Alive. You shouldn't be here alone, he said calmly, like we were meeting for lunch. You're dead, I whispered. He smiled faintly. That was necessary. The truth came out in pieces. My father hadn't been innocent. He'd wanted out. Wanted to sell, to disappear with the money. Raymond stopped him. The accident wasn't ordered, it was allowed. Caldwell had paid, Raymond had watched. Then he took the rights, hid them, built a fortress of secrets, and waited for the right moment. You, he said, eyes sharp, you were never meant to win. You were meant to choose. Where are my children? I asked. They're safe, he replied, because I made sure of it, same as everything else. I realized then what he'd really built. Not protection, control. He'd destroyed the Caldwells to inherit what remained, and now I was the last loose end. You raised me on lies, I said. No, he corrected gently. I raised you on survival. I stepped back. This ends now. He sighed, almost regretful, and reached for his coat. Gunfire split the air. Raymond fell. Behind him stood Mara, weapon raised, breath shaking. I hoped you wouldn't come, she said. Red and blue lights washed over the trees moments later. Backup. Real this time. As agents swarmed the site, I stared at my uncle's body, feeling nothing but exhaustion. He was right about one thing. Truth doesn't set you free all at once. It burns everything first. And as I watched them cover him with a tarp, I knew the final reckoning still waited. Because the last choice was mine. I testified 3 times. Once for the federal case. Once for the state. Once behind closed doors, where no cameras were allowed and names were replaced with letters. By the end of it, there was nothing left to trade, threaten, or bury. The last of the trusts collapsed. The last quiet partner was indicted. The story that had owned my family for 40 years finally ran out of places to hide. Ryan took 18 years. Chloe took 12. Raymond Hartman was officially declared dead for the 2nd time. This time with a body, a record, and no mythology left to protect him. I expected to feel triumph. What I felt instead was lightness, like a weight I'd been born carrying had finally been set down. We moved again after that, not under aliases this time, just far enough to breathe. A small farmhouse outside Portland. White shutters, overgrown fields. Quiet that didn't feel like danger. The first night there, I slept with the windows open. No sirens, no engines idling outside. Just wind and insects and something close to peace. Liam adjusted faster than I did. He started smiling again without checking the room first. Sophie stopped flinching at raised voices. The scissors disappeared from her pockets. One night, she asked if she could paint her room yellow, because dark colors make secrets. I let her paint the whole house if she wanted. The money came through slowly. Accounts unlocked. Land deeds transferred. Numbers so large they stopped feeling real. I didn't buy mansions or cars. I bought time, lawyers, counselors. A future that didn't depend on anyone else's permission. I kept the storage unit, Unit 32. B still costs $89 a month. It's empty now, clean, quiet. Sometimes I sit inside it for a few minutes when the world feels too loud. Not to remember the pain, but to remember that I survived it. On the first anniversary of the verdict, Liam stood beside me on the porch and asked, "Do you ever miss them?" I thought about it. "No," I said. "I miss who I thought they were." That night, after the kids went to bed, I took out the last letter Raymond ever wrote. The one I'd never shown anyone. I read it once more, then burned it in the sink, ash curling into nothing. Truth doesn't belong to the dead. It belongs to the people who live with it. My name is Emily Carter. I was betrayed by the people closest to me. used as leverage, erased on paper, left to rot in a place meant for forgotten things. But I didn't disappear. I adapted. And if there's one thing I know now, one thing no one can ever take from me, it's this: survival isn't luck. It's a decision you make every single day.